Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment in our live webinar program. Absolutely delighted this evening to be joined by our newly qualified international referee, Vinnie Dos Santos. Vinnie, how are you?
I'm very well, Gary. How are you?
Great, good. Life is good. First of these in our Educating Referee series. Just before we kick off, I'm just going to ask that if any of our viewers watching have any questions on rules, interpretations, or want any advice from Vinnie, then please feel free to pop your questions into the comments box, and then we'll go from there. So look, Vinnie, I suppose the first thing really, obviously you've just recently done the referees course. Just wondering if you want to kind of chat through that. You went off to Turkey for the week. Maybe just explain to us what the course involved and how you got on over there in Ankara.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be here tonight with you guys. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Well, the experience in Turkey was something else. As I told you before, Gary, and I'm telling pretty much everybody who is live, it was tough. To be honest, the toughest course I've ever attended. Lots of learning, a lot of learning, a lot of things that I thought I knew and actually I didn't. So that was great. That was great to put me in the right place, you know, but actually the main learning is after, you know, you start learning more and more, like when you come back, and then when you try to apply what I learned there, you know. I'm not an international referee yet. Like, I'm a candidate to be an international referee, and that should happen in the next, they say, like up to 4 years. Who knows now, like with the COVID and everything. So,
just for our viewers, you've done the course, you passed the course.
Yep.
It's now an assessment piece. Because I know you were off to Germany to referee. Was it in Stuttgart in one of the CV events? You have to do so many games and so many assessments to get the full status.
Exactly. Yeah, I do have 10. They are going to give me like the opportunity in 10 matches, and so I'm going to be assessed in the next 10 international matches, and has to be like a certain level. So. And I was supposed to be in Stuttgart actually this weekend. Now I was supposed to be in Stuttgart refereeing. That was going to be my first assessment, but that of course has been postponed. CV, like the referees commission, they are very good. So instead, like as we were not able to fly, so I'm going to have a webinar, and hopefully after the webinar that CV is going to deliver, I'm going to have more news, and mainly about the refereeing guidelines, instructions, as soon as we get back, and then I can share that with the volleyball community in Ireland. Okay,
cool. So far you have had the opportunity to go to Turkey. Where else have you been on your international refereeing journey?
That's what I tell everybody, like mainly the younger referees. I always tell them, listen, you get to travel, you know, you get to meet really nice people and doing what we like the most, and you know, like being around volleyball, and that's the main thing for me, being involved with volleyball. So I've been to Faroe Islands, I think I would say like 2 years ago, and then Denmark, Luxembourg twice. What else? I have been to Ankara for the course, Northern Ireland. So yeah, a few places.
And a few hiccups along the way, the missed flight in the Faroe Islands, so an extra night in Copenhagen. I hear you became the kind of the sightseeing guide for the day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Like when we're in Faroe, because of the weather, we got stuck there and we couldn't fly out, and was quite scary, to be honest. So then we missed our flight or connection in Copenhagen, and then we had to stay overnight, and then we had the whole day and the next day. And then thankfully I've been to Denmark before, so I kind of knew the city a little bit. So it was nice. It was nice to be with the girls. It was under 17 girls. It was nice to be with them and enjoy the day in Denmark with them. So the experience, it's amazing. It's not only about volleyball. Once you are experience the volleyball community here in Ireland, and you get to travel with the teams and get to know the coaches, and it's a great experience.
That was one thing I kind of really wanted to get out of tonight as well, is to really show people out there that there is a pathway for referees. You know, we obviously have our grades in Ireland, 3, 2, 1 national, but then when you make it to international level, there is opportunities to see the world, and to be involved in, you know, top quality sport events, which
definitely, like I not for me, because I'm an old man, like, you know, like when you're when you're 40, like you shouldn't be starting your international referee career when you're 40, because you have to retire when you're 55. So it's gonna take me, if I'm very lucky, like probably 2 years to become an international referee. So I'm gonna have like 10 to 12 years left to be an international referee. So I would say, like, if you have any interest, like, I'm not saying you, Gary, because you're an old man as well, but like I would say, like, anybody else who is listening and watching is, like, if you have any intention and you're young and you want to, like, now is the time, you know, like, get yourself prepared, perhaps next course or the next couple of courses that the CV is gonna be delivering. Like, that's a great opportunity, you know. And it's not only about the traveling. Like, at the end of the day, like, you're working, it's a job. So once you're there, like, you get paid to be there, you know. It's not a fortune, you're not going to be a millionaire, but, you know, like, it's some pocket money, like, you know. So it is good. I don't see any cons. Like, most of the traveling and the refereeing out abroad, like, it's pros for me. Like,
and look, you're representing Ireland as well, which
for me, it's the most important thing, to be honest. And some people might say, like, oh, like, you're just trying to be nice to the Irish, but actually, like, as a foreigner guy, you know, like, coming from a country where volleyball, it's massive, you know, like Brazil volleyball, it's massive. So I came to a country where, you know, started from that has the Irish flag. It's just incredible. Like, I get goosebumps, and it's cool. It's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so on a basic sense then, Vinny, kind of going right back to the start, what does it take to be a volleyball referee? What qualities do you think somebody needs to have to be a successful referee, I suppose?
Okay. So what I would say first, like, in Ireland, you have a few things that you have to get before, and there's some rules that you have to follow. So everyone has to be at minimum age of 16 to become a referee, like, you know, like, to referee the league or to pursue a career as a referee. And another thing that it's important, like, we need to be Garda vetted, you know, so that's another thing. Like, without that, we won't be going anywhere as a referee in Ireland. There's one thing that everybody thinks it has to happen, but it doesn't. Like, you don't need to be a player, you know. You just need to, you must love the game, you must enjoy volleyball, but you don't need to be a player. When we talk about qualities, like, you need to know the rules, of course, you know. Once you pass all the things I just said, you need to know the rules. And then when you say, like, you need to know the rules, it's a massive book. It's like more than 200 pages. So it's not that you need to know all the rules by heart when you start your career, because you're going to get more experience with the time, but you need to know the rules. You need to at least have a good knowledge of the case book, because the case book, Gary, is it's something more than the rules. It's stuff that happens on a match that normally doesn't happen with frequently, but then it has to be added somewhere. So the FIVB adds to the case book, and they're very funny, you know. Like, it's kind of good good thing to read about, you know, like it's good.
Go on, give us an example. Give us something in the case book there.
There's one case there, and I always remember that case. It's like if a player is playing with a prosthetic leg, and then during his block, his leg comes off, you know, and if the legs go under the net, if that's a fault or not a fault, you know. So like this is one of the cases, but there are loads of cases, you know.
And is it? And does he lose the point for his team?
Like, to be honest with you, like if that interferes, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But like the referee has to use the common sense there, you know. So it's all about the referee using the common sense there. But yeah, I've never seen that happen, but it's in a case book, so it means like it has happened before. The referee must be committed, you know. It's a responsibility. Like if you become a referee and you say, okay, I'm going to be refereeing that match, he has to be committed. As I said before, the referee must love the game. So if the referee goes up in the stand, or he's a second referee and he's not very interested in the match, it's kind of like hard to be a referee. Like you have to be happy to be there.
Yeah.
Quick thinking, fast reactions, you know, that's something like a good referee. It's a good quality to become a good referee. You know, volleyball, it can be a quite fast sport, and things happen very quickly. So a quick decision sometimes it's needed. But we have to think as well, when you talk about a good referee, it's better if you think a little bit before you take a decision than if you take a decision that you're not 100% sure because you want to be quick and then you take the wrong decision. So common sense again. Managing players, coaches, and spectators, this is very important as well. I've been a bad spectator before. Like I remember myself like shouting at referees, and this is cultural. This comes from Brazil, which is very bad sometimes. And I remember referees in Ireland, and I've learned with that, telling me like, oh, you're not allowed to do that, and putting me like in my place, you know, and make sure like I was quiet and I was interfering with the match. I'm not proud of that, but I learned to apply as a referee as well. So those are good qualities of a volleyball referee. And the FIVB encourages all the referees, and this is one of the topics of the guidelines for 2020 and probably 2021 as well, that the referee has to encourage the play, you know. There has to be like a smooth refereeing. So the referee has to be in the background. So we're not supposed to be appearing. Like the show is the volleyball, is the players, is the ball flying, you know, it's not the referee. And the understanding of the FIVB is that we as referees, we're preventing faults to happen. So preventing arguments, delays, interruptions of the match. So to make sure like we avoid that kind of things, you know. I think that's it. Yeah. There are more things, but that's what I know.
Well, one thing kind of I'm interested in, obviously, when we're doing these talks, we've had players on, I've had coaches on, and everyone has a different personality, right? And I'm kind of wondering, the referee in all sports kind of has a very unique position in that they have pressure from both sides looking at them. And I'm kind of thinking, you know, the calmness under pressure and the ability to kind of keep a clear head and keep that kind of decision making. And I'm wondering, Vinnie, and I've seen this here in other sports, I'm wondering kind of, if you had made a decision and then 3 or 4 seconds afterwards, you've made your decision, you've realised it was the wrong call. Has that ever happened? Or you can tell by players' reaction, oh, I've got that one wrong. What do you do in that situation to kind of reset yourself?
It is a very good question. And your point there where you say like, oh, the players' reactions, you know, but like as a referee, you only can call what you see, you know? Yeah. So if all the players, they saw something that I haven't seen, and then, the players, they come to me, like, let's say both captains, they come to me and they say like, oh no, actually it's a wrong call. Yeah, I'm humble enough to replay, you know, like, yeah, my mistake, you know, it was a bad call, we can replay. If there's no reactions, and then the players, because this is, again, it's common sense, the players, they don't come to me, or, you know, like they're not agreeing on the call, like I go with my call because like that's what I saw, you know. And of course, I will call only what I'm 100% sure. Like when it comes to the rules, you know, if I made a mistake, it's because I didn't interpret the rules the way the rules are supposed to be. And then of course, after the match, if something like that happens, I go to my book and then I make sure like, okay, I learn for the next time. But yeah, it happens. Yeah. And I can assure you, like in Ankara, I was having the course being delivered was two of the best referees I've ever seen refereeing, like Olympic finals and everything they've been refereeing. And the things they told us, that the mistakes they made, like, you know, so it's okay to make mistakes as long as you said, you reset from that point and what has passed and move on. One thing that it's a very easy mistake of most of the referees. Like if I make a mistake now and I realize I made a mistake and I can't go back, like I'm not gonna punish that team, you know, and because I'm gonna be making another mistake. So I reset and I go as the match started from there, you know.
Yeah, cool, good advice. Trish Summers is asking, do you get nervous or do you find it stressful refereeing at any stage?
Yeah, I don't get stressful. Like, you know, there's no stress for me anymore because I really, really enjoy it. Like, it's something like, come on, like we go every Sunday, you know, like instead of like being in the park or being with our loved ones, like we go and we rather to be refereeing volleyball. So I really love it. So I don't get stressed. But yeah, like I always get a little bit of apprehensive, I would say. So what I do is before the match, I'm always there earlier so I can get everything set and prepared. So there's no additional stress. And then I make sure like I when I go up in the stand, like I'm no friends with anyone, like everybody's just the players, the coaches, and I get myself super concentrated and that's it.
Sure.
Works for me. It might not work for everybody else.
Kind of one thing I kind of, when I watch different sports, kind of interested in seeing kind of the interaction between referees and players and coaches. I'm kind of wondering from a volleyball perspective, you know, you'll see players going up or the referee calling a player over. What's the guidelines there? What are the rules in terms of who can engage with the referee during a match?
Okay, this is a very good question again, Gary. So who can talk to the referees? The game captains. Okay, so we have the captain of the match, and when you see like a game starting, you're going to see the two captains at the tossing. But then sometimes they are not the players that they're going to be on court, or sometimes they're not on court all the time. So then we have a designated game captain. So they are the only ones that they are going to be allowed to talk to the first referee during the match. The coaches, they are not allowed to talk to the referees at all. If they want to say anything to the referees, they should avoid because they're not supposed. But if there is anything that they don't find anything in relation to the rules interpretation, they can tell their captain, the game captain, and the game captain goes to the first referee to talk to the first referee. The coaches, they are allowed to talk to the second referees in only two options. Like they have only two options, two times that they can talk to the second referee, and that's to ask for a timeout or for substitutions. Those are the only times that the coach is going to be able to talk to the referees. And it's very, like, people don't realize how important it is. The figure of the captain on court, you know, like the captain is the one that's going to speak out for everybody, you know, and as long as the captain comes to the referee and in a polite way, if he has any questions and regarding to interpretation of the rules, is the referee's obligation to repeat the hand signal if that's needed, and in plain English explain to the captain why he applied that rule and what the rule is about. It has to be brief because we have to be sure, like, the game, there's no more delays in the game. But yeah, of course, common sense again. If there's a captain that's coming like every second ball, like, yeah, that shouldn't be happening. But like, once in a while that can happen.
I mean, I'm sure there's been instances of this, Vinny, where obviously, so that's the rule. So then you're expecting then that you're going to have conversations with the captain. Have you ever had an instance where the captain has just been completely rude or obnoxious, or you don't want to speak to that captain because of the way Dave spoke to you? How do you kind of handle that situation where you kind of, it's a balance between being professional as a referee, but then also kind of, actually, you know what, I'm a human being as well. You know, how dare you be disrespecting me like that? How do you contain your own emotions with the kind of being a professional referee?
Yeah, there are two sides of refereeing in Ireland. There's the thing where you know pretty much every player, you know, because we've been there like for so long. So most of the players, they're really nice to the referee. If they know the referee, like, and they know we're going to be having a beer after the match or next weekend. So that helps with the relationship. But sometimes there's some people some players that's, you know, they don't want to be rude or anything like that. It's just because the game is so tight sometimes. And so it is understandable. Again, there's the language barrier as well. Like, we have to understand, like in Ireland, we have so many foreigners playing volleyball, which is great, but the diversity, this is really good. But then when someone comes to talk to me, a game captain comes to talk to me, I have to understand that we have the language, you know, because English is not my first language. Most likely his language, English is not going to be his first language as well. I have to think like, okay, the game is really tight, you know, and was a call. So I cannot shout at him, like, that's not my job. I'm going to ask him like, okay, calm down, you know, and if that starts repeating, you know, if that's something that's happening, like, that's why we have the sanctions, you know. You know, we can always give like a warning, always a yellow card. And I have to be honest, like, I'm very lucky. I haven't had any major issues like since I started refereeing. So, yeah.
Just on sanctions, Vinny, I'm kind of interested. Again, you'll hear it seems to be a constant thing in other sports about disciplines getting worse and the respect for referees is kind of diminishing. What's your view on that in volleyball and in Irish volleyball?
Like, to be honest, like what happened last season, like because of our referees are improving, and you know, like we were having like lots of really good referees out there, and we've learned how to use the cards and how to use the sanctions. So before we didn't use them as much, and we had like several issues. I remember like referees in my own club, like referees coming out of the stand and players like going on top of the referee and shouting and hollering, but because the game was so the heat during the game, and then the referee didn't hold the players, so then that escalated. So last season we had like several cards, and I can assure you there's no referee who likes giving cards, you know, and I will tell you why. But we had more cards given, we had more sanctions given, and I think the discipline was a lot better, you know. So again, we don't like giving cards. I'm 100% sure there are no referees in Ireland or in the world that likes giving cards.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's delaying the game, and then I'm putting myself on a spot, you know, like when I give a card, like everybody's gonna look at the player, but it's gonna look at me as well, and I don't want to be seen. Like I want the players to be seen, the ball to be seen, but not me. So, and then on top of it, like after that, after the game, I have to stay there to make sure like I fill in the score sheet like properly, that the card is gonna go there, or the cards, the sanctions. And then after that, I have to go home, and then sometimes after refereeing 3 matches, I get home, I have a cup of tea, and then I have to write one report for each card that I gave that day. Yeah. So like, it's not great. It's not something that we want to do.
Yeah, sure.
Did I answer your question, or like?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. So we've chatted about interaction between players, coach, referee. I'm kind of, again, talking about comparing to different sports, different dynamics. You have the 2 referees. in volleyball, quite close together, you know, on the other side of the court. Kind of, how does that relationship work? Can you tell us about kind of the interaction between the first and the second referee, and what are the kind of the important parts of that relationship working well?
Yeah, I think like I'm not sure about the other sports, but at volleyball, the two referees, they have, and when I say the two referees, I'm saying the two referees and the scorekeepers as well. They have to work really, really closely. So there's some things that they have to happen. And that's why referee in Ireland is so comfortable, at least for me, because most likely I'm going to know the second referee, and that helps a lot. It's a lot harder when you get to a competition where you don't know. And the first match that you ref, you don't know the second referee, you don't know the scorers, so it's always a little bit more tense. But then the second day of competitions, like, you know most of the referees, and then it's a lot easier. So it's teamwork. We work together. We want the same goal. So eye contact is super important. Like, we need to make sure like you are constantly looking at each other, because the second referee won't be giving signs. So according to his eye contact, I will know more or less what he's telling me, and that's going to avoid confusion as well. There's a lot of respect. So the second referee has to be sure, like, the first referee's call, it's the last call, and that's what he has to follow. So that's one of the things when we talk about relationship between the referees. Then we have to think as well the relationship between the scorekeepers and the second referee. So it's important that the second referee knows that the scorekeepers, they're ready to the match to proceed, to keep going. So the second referee has to always be aware of both benches, if something is going on the benches, and the scorekeepers. So it's a practice of mine, like, and probably most of the international referees. Like, once I'm second referee, after every rally, I make sure like I look to both benches, and I look to my scorekeepers, and I just give a sign with my head to make sure like everything is all right. Yeah, they say it's all right. Then I turn to my first referee, and then the match can keep going.
So the job of the second referee then and the first referee are very different. And I'm kind of wondering, can you get a good first referee and not being kind of diplomatic here, a not so good second referee, and vice versa? Are some people, just dependent on their personalities, maybe just better suited to being a second referee? And, you know, I don't know. Look, I suppose that's the question. Is that possible?
It can be a lot worse if the second referee is a really good one and the first one is not that great. Or sometimes it's not that the first referee is not that great. Sometimes he's not in a great day, you know. So yeah, that can happen, and it's quite frustrating, you know. And at the end of the day, like, the first referee has his own job, and that's watching the ball when the ball is over the net. And then when the ball is off the net, then he's going to follow the ball. The second referee has to watch the net and the line underneath the net at all times, you know? So if that happens quite a lot, because we all love the game. So the second referee sometimes watches the ball and forgets about the net and about the line. And this is quite frustrating for the first referee, because he's not watching the net. He's watching the ball and what happens on the top of the net. So anything that happens below, it's not his responsibility. So I can give you an example, like a player is blocking, and then the ball is being played over the net, and then the ball just flies out of the net. The first referee is going to watch the ball. The second referee has to watch the net until the block players and the hitters, until they land. And then once they land and there's no playing on the net, then the second referee can watch the ball then. So it happens a few times when the second referee keeps watching the ball as well. So the ball flies out the net, and then the blocker touches the net on his landing. And then the first referee sometimes, like, he knows there was a net touch, but he can't call because he didn't see that. And we only call what we see. You know, some players, they say like, oh, but like, you saw the net moving, or this is something that happens all the time. Oh, but everybody heard the touch, like, it's not what we hear, it's not what's like, you know, it's what we see. So that's why it's so important, like the job of the first and the second referee, and to work together, you know. So they need to know what their job is and work together. So it's going to be a good refereeing. One thing that I've seen like quite a lot, like not only in Ireland, but like, is that some referees, like mostly of the old schools, like the second referee, and sometimes they are great referees, they keep like mirroring, so repeating the signs of the first referee. And this is completely wrong. Like in the rules, it says like, no, the second referee will only make his calls, and that's net and the line underneath the net. And then any other thing, like any other sign, he's not going to give any sign. He's going to only move to the side that's going to be receiving the ball after the rally. So the first referee will know once the second referee moves to the receiving side. So the first referee will know, okay, so he agrees with me or he doesn't agree with me, but there's no sign. Sometimes the second referee can give a sign, and that's going to be different of the sign of the first referee, and that can cause mayhem with the players. So that's super important.
So kind of
I can go on and talk a little bit more if you want.
No, this is good. So Trish is then asking, based on that answer, a second referee is encouraged to signal calls then that aren't theirs, you know, to signal a call that is the job of the first referee. I suppose the question is, if the first referee misses something which is pretty obvious, how does the second referee bring that to their attention without kind of undermining them, I suppose?
Can I tell you what happened is, sometimes what we do is the second referee wants to help the first referee, and then he gives like a small sign. So let's say, I don't know if you're seeing here, like he does this very small, like sometimes like lower, and then he shows, oh, it was out, or sometimes it was a touch. What the FIVB like encourages the referees is like, the second referee is expected to help the first referee when there is a touch that was almost impossible for the first referee to see. So a block touch, or if there was the net on top, like if there's a net touch, or if the ball was out and the first referee couldn't see, a very small sign, again, moving to the receiving side, but a very small sign, and only in those two situations. Like, I'm going to give an example. Like, if the first referee is not calling like double touches as the first referee would call, like there's no point for the second referee to be giving signs, or, you know, like that doesn't help the first referee. Sometimes that's going to make the first referee to doubt of himself, and then that only goes downhill. So the advice of the FIVB is like, second referee will help when there's a touch or when the ball is out, but that's impossible for the first referee to see.
Okay.
Can I just, one thing that is very funny that I learned actually refereeing outside, and I was really embarrassed. So my first time I was refereeing out of Ireland, and then something happened, and then I went to the first referee. I was second referee, I went to him, and then he was so embarrassed. So internationally, there's a thing that they call like the walk of shame. So if the first referee goes, the second referee goes to the first referee, it means that the first referee didn't know the call, or there was some issues with the call. So the first referee wasn't in control of the match. So that's a kind of a shameful for the first referee. So they say like, that's a walk of shame. So very unlikely the first referee is going to call the second referee. Sometimes it's needed, but very unlikely that's going to happen. That's why it's very important, like contact and making sure like they are on the same page.
Just on this second referee stuff then, so Mark is asking, what's the protocol if the second referee blows their whistle and calls for a foul that isn't within their job description, isn't within their remit?
Okay, so in the rule book, there's apart from the net and the line, of course, the first referee, if you don't have line judges like here in Ireland, the first referee is going to call like antenna on his side, because it's going to be impossible the second referee, because the first referee is going to be impossible for him to see. So it's common sense. Like the ball, when the ball is in or out, but it's like there's a player in front of the of the first referee. So, and that happens on the second referee side. So yeah, of course, the second referee can call that. So where are you, Barry?
So, yeah, nobody would notice. The wife's actually watering the plants outside the window here, so I was worried about the noise. But anyway,
no. So this is the common sense. Then in the rule book, there's one thing that the second referee definitely can call. It's if the ball hits the floor, and then the first referee is unable to see that, so the second referee he can call it. Actually, I have a video. And if you want, I can share that right now. This is very lucky.
Yeah, share the screen there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share the screen here. Just bear with me there. And then I show you the video here. Okay, I'm gonna show you first the one that the second referee is gonna call. Just bear with me. Yeah, that's the one. There we go. So if you did watch the second referee, he is, can you hear me there, Gary?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So if you did watch the second referee, you could see, let me just stop sharing. Yeah. So you could see like the first referee didn't call the ball touched the floor. So the second referee like immediately like, yeah, call the ball on the floor. And then it's in the rule book. The second referee can call that.
Okay. Mark's also asking, he's interested what you think about line judges or no line judges. I think particularly in Ireland, he's kind of asking, do you think line judges can be a help or a hindrance, I suppose, at this level?
Line judges, it's like all the way. But like if you can have like 4 line judges every match, that would be like heaven for all referees. It's a lot easier to ref with line judges because the line judges, they're going to be watching not only ball in, ball out, but they're going to be watching like block touches. They're going to be watching the ball crossing outside the antennas. They're going to be watching. It's a huge, massive help for the referees. Like the referees, then they can concentrate like properly only on their own jobs. You know, yeah. It's again, it's a lot easier to have a team with 6 people than a team of only 2, you know. So yeah, line judges all the way.
But it's more to think about for the referee, or more to manage. And I suppose when, you know, the point's over, it's more for you to kind of, you know, to make contact with, to communicate with.
It does take a while until you get used to it. Because right now, what we do is, like, as a first referee, I only watch my second referee and then I take my decision, you know. Yeah. When I have line judges, first of all, I need to know where the ball hit the floor, where the ball flew out. So then I know which line judge I'm gonna look at, because I can't look to the 4 of them to make a decision. I have to know exactly to the one that I'm gonna look at. So it takes a while until you get used to it. But then once you do, like it's just brilliant. It's really, really good.
Okay, cool. Couple of questions coming in here. During intervals between sets, can players be sanctioned?
Yeah, that's something like rarely happen. But let's say if that happens, like players being sanctioned before the match started, or even like between the sets, yeah, sanctions, they can be applied, you know, and then the way it works is, so the sanction is applied, once the next set is going to start, the first referee calls the captain, explain what happened, and let's say if it was given like a red card, so it means like the opposite team is going to first of all receive the ball if they're not serving, they're going to serve if they're not serving. If they're serving, they keep the serve, and they're going to start with 1 point ahead. So yeah, that can happen.
Okay.
Talk about intervals. there's one thing that happens, and someone asked me, like, actually, when I told I was going to be talking to you tonight, people are saying, like, oh, how does it work? Like, it's 3 minutes. So when do I need to give, like, the rotation to the second referee, the sleep? And then the way it works is, so it's 3 minutes since the last rally of the set finishes until the match has to start. The next set has to start. So once the teams, they change, like, immediately the second referee is gonna ask for the slips. So the coaches, they should have that ready. Of course, normally we give them like half a minute tops. And then what happens is not when it's 3 minutes, it's when it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the second referee is gonna call the teams to come back to court, because it's only 3 minutes interval. Again, the FIVB wants the game to flows quickly and smoothly. So it's about playing volleyball. It's not about, like, the match to be stopped.
Okay, so with that in mind, kind of talking about timings and games getting delayed and things like that, a question in here, is there any good timing to respect to allow for smooth refereeing? You may understand that question perhaps better than I'm asking it.
No, not really. Can you ask that again, please?
Yeah, I'll go again. Is there any good timing to respect to allow for smooth refereeing?
I don't kind of get your question.
No, well, so you're saying that, Vinny, but you wrote this question for me before, so, so I'm blaming you. Talk about game delays and matches being interrupted and things like that. Obviously, you don't want the games to be held up too much.
Yeah, you're talking about interruptions. Yeah, no, that's another thing that came up as well. Like, I was talking to one of the referees another day, and again, the idea of the volleyball, the game is to be played. So the interval is one of the things. The other thing is, like, when the player goes to serve. So the time that the player has by the rules, what the FIVB advice is, like, it's 15 seconds after the rally finishes until the service is done. So if you count that the service has to be done after the whistle within 8 seconds, so the player has actually 7 seconds to go collect the ball and serve. Of course, when you talk about the FIVB advising that, is because they have, like, ball boys, you know, like, and ball retrievers and everything, and they play with the 5-ball system. It's completely different. So in Ireland, we have to take that in consideration. Again, we have to use common sense. I've seen referees, like, authorizing the service because they don't want the match to be delayed, but then they didn't notice that on court they had only, like, 5 players. So the teams, they weren't ready to play. So common sense again, like, I have to make sure the players are ready. If the players are delaying the game, or someone is taking too long, or the liberals are taking too long to swap, then yeah, there's sanctions for that, delay warning, yellow card after that. So yeah, that can happen, but common sense again.
Okay, big question this, putting you under pressure here, and I know it's something you're very passionate about. Colette's asking around, well, first of all, congratulations on your success in Turkey. What suggestions, and conscious you could probably talk about this for the next 24 hours, what suggestions would you have to improve refereeing standards here in Ireland?
Well, thank you very much, Colette. Colette is always so sweet. Yeah, we've been talking about that actually with the commissions, and I think, like, practicing is the best way. Once we, as you said, like, we can talk for the next 24 hours, but once I have, like, a pool of referees that they want to be referees, you know, continues like things like that, like webinars or workshops, meetings, courses. Like when I become a referee, like, and I get my grade 3 referee, and then I have some practice, and then I become a grade 2 referee. Sometimes I become a grade 2, and then I stay as a grade 2 like for years and years. And you know, and sometimes, like, I don't go to a course, I don't watch a match, or like I I don't talk to the other referees. So the exchange of experience, this is super important. So talking about something that I found on the case book, and okay, so how do I apply that? So having these meetings with the referees, you're going to have like more experienced referees, less experienced referees, and exchanging the experience that they have when they're refereeing. Like, I'm pretty sure like we have like the guys from Northern Ireland that they have completely different situations there. So perhaps like having workshops with guys from outside Ireland as well. I've been speaking with a friend of mine. He's from Austria, and he's a teacher, and he's developing this website that's for teaching referees, which is brilliant. So I've been speaking to him, and hopefully I'm going to get him either to deliver to us like a webinar or something like this, or even like hopefully once this COVID is past, like I can bring him to Ireland and perhaps have like a morning or an afternoon, like where he can share his experience. So like these kind of things, I think like would help a lot to improve refereeing in Ireland.
No, absolutely, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think just something I'm going to jump on there. You're talking about having meetings and things like that amongst referees. I mean, surely that's something pretty simple we can facilitate through this system here, where you know, referees can come together. We can facilitate a system on Zoom, maybe on a certain topic. And look, if that's once a month, at the moment it could be every week, or whatever. You know, we could certainly pretty straightforward thing. If that helps, and let us know, and we'll get it organized. Absolutely.
Listen, like right now, like we're not doing much volleyball, so perhaps I wouldn't say like every week, because like I don't know you, Gary, but I have to drink some wine every now and again. So, but like let's say like once a month, perhaps we could get together, have something like this, and you know, have the referees getting together and talk about refereeing and the experience we have, and see how it goes. Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Don't hold that against me, like if I say I'm not available.
Okay, other questions coming in here. Des is asking, should we require scorekeepers to be trained and assessed before they assist at a match?
Okay, so in Ireland, the situation it's quite complicated. I'm gonna start saying like first of all, to be a referee, like you must know how to fill in a score sheet, like from the beginning of the match until the end of the match. You need to be able to open a score sheet and to close a score sheet. So first of all, the referee has to be able to do that. Then the scores, like in Ireland, the way it happens is like everybody's a volunteer. So we do our best, you know, like our league is very long. So it would be great. And listen, I would be willing to help and to deliver some sort of training on score sheets. And yeah, perhaps like the clubs, we could organize within the clubs and, you know, some parts of Dublin or even outside Dublin, and go to the clubs and teach the scorekeepers how to do it. Yeah, definitely. A course would be great, making sure like they know how to fill a score sheet, like definitely that would be very helpful. But my experience in Ireland is like sometimes it's very hard to find someone to go there, to be there. Like I think like hard to get everybody trained, but it's a great idea, and definitely we could develop that and get more people trained. Yeah, and even within the referees, our pool of referees would be great to get everybody, because I'm sure most of us we know, but to get everybody up to speed, to make sure like they know where everything goes, they know where the sanctions are supposed to be written down, and that would be wonderful if everybody knew how to do it.
Just kind of on that, we developed kind of an online referees rules quiz. It's designed for kind of for school kids, for student referees. I've just posted it in the Facebook comments there. Just interested to see if anyone wants to complete the online form, see what their knowledge is on the rules. We'll review the answers and we'll send you your score out of 100, and we may even offer up a prize for the best score. So if you're interested, it's in the comments box there on Facebook. Give it a click. It's just done through Google Forms, so it's simple enough, and we'll be in touch next week with your results. So, guys, have a go on that. Challenge yourself. Other stuff coming in. Mark again. Mark's full of the questions tonight. You DVC guys sticking together. He's asking, can we talk about pre-match protocols, how it differs between standards in Ireland and international standards? Obviously, you have the anthems, which will be the main difference. Is there anything else?
Yeah, like, to be honest with you, like I'm gonna tell you this experience like very quickly. The first time I was refereeing outside Ireland was in Faro, and you remember, Gary, like when I came back, and I told you like I arrived there and it was like 11:30 in the evening, and then they gave me like, I missed the meeting with the other referees, so they gave me like 4 different protocols, and some protocols like they can start like 45 minutes before the match starts. Some other protocols, the shorter protocols, they can start like 18 minutes before. So Ireland has one, and it's fairly simple. Like once you do that, like you do that once or twice, like you learn how to do that. But it can vary. Like for international competitions, like we have to be there an hour and a half in advance, and the protocol starts like 50 minutes. So 50 minutes before the match starts, we have like tasks to be done. Like every minute, we need to know exactly what we're going to be doing. So in Ireland, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Cool things here. I seen this once in a clip on YouTube of a match where I was just kind of interested after, because I don't know what the outcome was, but basically the ball flies over the net and players run in to save the ball, obviously, into the coach's area. And literally the ball more or less landed on the coach's head, but the coach just stood his ground. Obviously could have moved out of the way, but chose not to. And then there was a big row and it all kicked off. And I'm kind of wondering, it was in the back of my mind, what's meant to happen in that situation? Who's in the right, who's in the wrong?
So the opposite coach, the coach of the opposite team, he wasn't very keen to move. Let's say like he was lazy to move. No. So I'm gonna give an example. So if team A hits the ball and then team B defends the ball flies over outside the antenna. Okay, so it doesn't cross the inside antennas. It goes outside the antenna. And then clearly you see a player from team B like running towards the ball. The second referee has to get out of the way, and normally that's what we do. What we advise is like go towards the pole. So it means like if you go behind the pole, there's no way like you're going to be in the middle of the rally. So most of the referees, like what we do is like, because it's the first instinct, like we run towards the scorekeepers, but this is wrong. We should go towards the pole. And of course, like with my back towards the pole, so I can keep watching the fly of the ball. And then the coach, he must move. He's obliged to move. Okay. He can't be on the way because he is interfering with the play. Okay. Of course, if the ball hits the coach and that's not intentional, then it's different. Then this is the ball touch, and actually the sign is ball out because it has touched the foreign object. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Cheers, Vinny. Thanks for that. A couple of others coming in. Adrian is asking, obviously we talked about the great things about being a referee. What's your worst experience refereeing?
The first experience with refereeing was, the best and the worst.
Best and the worst, okay.
No, the best and worst was Ankara, okay? Like for sure, was the best experience ever and was the worst experience ever because like was a reality shock, like when you see like, oh shit, oh sorry, pardon my French.
It's after 9, you're right. No, it's not quite what you're going.
Like top of my head, I can't tell you exactly. It doesn't come like a worse experience. Like I can tell you when I was the Ankara reffing one of the first league there, and I had these two international referees like with paper and a pen, like taking notes of everything he was doing. That was nerve-wracking, you know. So that was my
Yeah.
worst experience. My best experience definitely was when I was refereeing the finals in Luxembourg last year. That was the atmosphere, seeing the girls playing like was incredible. And the second time was when I wasn't refereeing, but I was in Denmark, actually not in Faroe, when the under-17 they won their first match, and it was the first match for Ireland. Was incredible. Was brilliant. Yeah.
Great. Any funny kind of moments stand out for you? Any kind of thing that you've seen on the court which just had you kind of in hysterics?
Okay, there's some things that happens and you don't believe that happens. Okay, so I have a video here and people don't believe that can happen, and that happens quite often. So I'm gonna share that video with you, and then after, when something like that happens, you just think like, no, it didn't happen. That's not possible, you know. So
Okay.
I'm gonna share that with you, and it's just incredible. So that's, I think it's here. Yeah. So you wouldn't believe this could happen, would you?
I think people watching at home, it might be a little bit kind of stuttery. Oh, wow, the ball off.
Did you see where the ball touched? I'm gonna play that again. So everybody said the ball was out.
Yeah.
Can you see where the ball touched?
Yeah. So is that a contact then? So that's...
Yeah. So as you can see there, they challenged, and that was a touch.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the kind of things, like when this kind of things happen, you just like, oh, like, are you sure that happens? You know, like another time, like I was a player, and then the referee authorized the game to start, the set to start, and then he didn't notice there were like 7 players in the other team. So like they had the 6 players, the libero came on court, and the middle player who was playing backcourt didn't leave. And then we played the whole rally, and they had 7 players, you know. And the funny thing, like everybody laughed because like they even playing with 7, they didn't get the point, so everybody laughed. So we have some funny moments, like and we all laugh about it. Yeah.
Guys, if anyone out there has any more kind of rule questions or wants some clarification on any interpretations, or maybe you had a game last year and you were adamant that the referee made the wrong call and you'd like Vinny to tell you that you were wrong, or whatever it is, you know, pop your question in the comment box now, and we'll see if we can get that answered for you. A couple of other questions coming in. One about handling. It can be different to keep the same standards across all referees and players in different divisions in regards to handling the ball. I think I'm kind of thinking as well when looking at that, particularly from maybe like a school's perspective where you have kind of beginners playing. How do you ensure that the consistency in the rules is correct, but at the same time, obviously, you want, you know, young players to develop and enjoy the game as well? How do you handle them situations?
Yeah. So what I'm going to tell you first is what the FIVB tells us as their advice. We want the game to flow. Okay, to flow. So the way it works is we are not supposed to be too strict when it comes to handling the ball. Okay, so let's say double contact, like a double touch. So we are supposed to oversee like the ones that they are not too bad, because we don't want to be stopping the match every second point. Okay, of course, if there's catch and throw, that's against the rules. Of course I'm gonna call that. But I have to take in consideration when I'm refereeing a match, and there's a play where the setter is forced to make a very quick action, okay, to reach the ball in order to set it. So, you know, it's when the ball hits the block, and then the player the ball is quite fast, and then the player has to set the ball. So, or when it's the first contact, you know. So yeah, I have to be quite lenient, you know. The first referee has to let the game flows, you know. So we're not supposed to be too strict. When it comes to teenagers and the kids, then even less, you know. Like we want them to enjoy the game, we want them to play volleyball and to like it, and to then later on, like when they are able and they have the ability to learn how to do that properly, then of course, then we can start calling and be more severe. Of course, when I'm calling the setters, and the setter is in a good position, or even a player who is in a good position, of course I'm gonna call double touches. But that's why sometimes in Ireland people say like, oh, like you don't have a standard. No, I do have a standard. It's gonna depend the situation where the player was. Okay.
Okay.
Does that answer you?
I think so. Yeah, Adidas kind of thrown into that as well. Around, you know, if that's not enforced, setters will never learn to set properly if there's too much of the second touches, double touches ignored.
I completely understand. And if it is a setter, I'm going to be strict and I'm going to call every double touch. You know, if the handling is not perfect, But if it is a player, and you know, like, and as I said, sometimes the player is forced to make like a very quick action to play, you know. So then, that's the advice of the FIVB. That's not my call. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm doing that because I want to do that. That's what comes from the FIVB, the Referees Commission, the CV. Like, we have to let the game play. It's like, even like in the rule book, it says like, if it is like a long rally, you know, and it's a spectacular play, like we're not supposed to call, like, unless it is a very bad fault. But this is in the rules, like, you know, like in Ireland, we're very lucky because most of the referees, they are players. So they know the rules, you know, they know what they're talking about. So they know this kind of things. Okay.
Dave Dalton is asking, what's the correct definition of screening?
Okay. This is something it's quite funny. And I was talking to another referee another day about that. And have you ever, like any of you guys, have you ever seen a match on TV or on YouTube, or that you saw a first referee calling screening? I've never seen. Like I've been watching volleyball, and believe me, I watch like at least 5 hours of volleyball every week. And I'm not exaggerating. Like I love watching volleyball on YouTube. So, and I've been playing volleyball since I was 9 years old. So I've never seen like a referee like internationally or like in a good level calling screening. So the way it works is a lot of things they will have to happen to be a screening. First of all, team B is receiving and team A is serving. So the blockers in team, the serving team, the blockers, they will have to block completely the receiving team, the view of the ball and of the player. And when I say of the ball, it's the flying of the ball. So again, the two conditions, they have to happen. If the service is a jump service, the first condition is gone, okay? Because then the ball is gonna go up, you know, and the hitter is gonna hit the ball quite high. So the first condition is gone, okay? Again, of course, sometimes you have the players and that doesn't happen as well, because most of the players, they know that if they keep moving and moving arms, but very rarely. I myself have never called. And sometimes like the teams, they come over, because you have to make sure like the other team is not hiding, the receiving team is not hiding behind. So, you know, like just to force its screening as well. So it's common sense as well.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, I'm just picturing the car, right? So the first referee is obviously on the post. Like the server's obviously at the back of the car. How could the referee even see that?
Like when I call the service, like I'm watching not only the service. Okay, first of all, in my mind, I'm counting 8 seconds because within 8 seconds that the serve has to happen. And I'm also watching the rotation of the serving team. So I'm gonna be watching like them when they're swapping on the net,
Right.
you know, so it's my job to do that. Someone asked me like, what if the second referee sees the screening? It means I would say like my second referee is not great because he's not supposed to be watching that. He's supposed to be watching the receiving team. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Questioning, can you talk a little bit about net faults, any special cases? And I'm picturing now in my head about the ponytail and the ball. So ponytail hits the net, that's a net fault, yeah?
Yeah, so the way it works is, if a ponytail gets tangled in the net and that interferes with the play, yeah, that's a net fault. I definitely call that. But if the player is turning around and then the hair touches the net, no, that's not a net fault. There's another thing that happens quite often. The player team A is blocking the ball and team B is hitting, and the ball hits the top of the net, the band, and then the net touches the block. So that's not a net fault because the player didn't touch the net. The ball pushed the net against the block. You know, so this is quick thinking of the referee. But the hair on the net, it's a very good question. The other thing that's very important, some of the players, they don't know that the net touch is going to be counted within the antennas, and I'm counting the antennas as well, and the bands where the antennas are in. But outside the antennas, like the player can touch the net, and that's not a problem.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Look, guys, if there's any more questions in, we're getting to kind of the end of the ones that we have submitted. So please, you have a couple more minutes to put Vinny under a little bit of pressure here before we wrap up. So get typing quickly. I'm kind of wondering, Vinny, any referees or any let's say not referees, let's say there's players out there that are watching this, haven't refereed before. What would you say to encourage them to pick up the whistle and give it a go?
Well, I've been giving gifts to some of the referees, like the younger ones that I think like they should pursue the refereeing career in Ireland, you know. So that's a way to encourage the younger referees. But actually, as I said to you, like if the young ones or even the old ones, if they want to try, like if you do like it, like as I said, like it's a great way to make friends, to be part of the community, to enjoy the game. Again, it's a way to make some pocket money. Like, so let's say if you are in college, you know, like if you ref like 3 matches, like it's 100 quid in your pocket, you know? So if you're in college and if you need the money, like why not? You know, if you like volleyball, if you enjoy the game, so why not? And then for the young ones, like that they are experienced and they're thinking about like, why should I go? Like, again, in the beginning, when I said like all the traveling, meeting new people, and enjoying like volleyball outside Ireland is just incredible.
I think as well, from a personal development perspective, I think refereeing and having the kind of putting yourself in that spotlight and dealing with, you know, the players and the coaches, people, everyone watching you, waiting for you to make a decision making under pressure, the kind of life skills that, you know, it's pretty hard to get. And I'd say it's any young people watching this, like from your own kind of self-development, for your own career development, putting yourself out your comfort zone into that situation can only give you skills that can be transferable into other things as well.
I can tell you, I've seen people that they tried and they tried and they tried and they love the game, but that wasn't for them. You know? So you have to be careful, like to not push yourself, because I've met referees that they were forced because there wasn't enough referees, so they were pushed to go and they hated the experience, and that actually was the opposite reaction. But I've seen people that they were very shy in real life, and then once they started refereeing, like they became much more open, and they learned how to communicate better. You know, so yeah, you can improve a lot of personal skills, definitely.
We've put the rush on a few people here, so the questions are now flying in. Erica Fattini, who is on tomorrow night for the Coach Education Series, she's going to be talking about creating winning mindsets in team dynamics, which I'm really excited about. Erica is asking, in Ireland, we're obviously a small community. Everyone knows everyone, right? And you can't touch this earlier, Vinny, but has there ever been a moment as a referee where you felt this might have interfered with your judgment? Or what do you what's your mindset to think, even though I know that person really well and I'm good friends with them, that's not going to influence me?
Yeah, like it's a very good question, but I think like in the beginning of this this online session, like I said, like once I go up, I think, but Trish, she asked me like if there was any stress, and I said like what I do is when I go up on a stand, like they're not my friends anymore, they're like players, you know. So I'm very proud of my refereeing when I'm refereeing in DVC, because most of the girls, like they're really good friends, like they're really close friends. Some of them, they're best friends. Some of the guys, they're best friends, and I can overlook that, you know, because it's my character that's being looked at, you know. So no, like there's no friendships there. I have to be fair. And then after the match, some of them, they come to me and they say like, yeah, most of the time, yeah, that was a good call. Yeah, I was wrong, you're right. And some of them, they still don't agree with me, but we're still friends.
Yeah, sure. Miriam is asking, we've answered this already. She's just asking about handling faults and the different standards, particularly, you know, beginners, to encourage them to keep playing. We covered that earlier, didn't we? Definitely.
Yeah.
Mark's asking, I'm going to try my best with this one. Just wondering if middle line encroachment is ever okay. And then he's given an example of the ball is hit, a blocker landing, plants their foot and happens to cross the line whilst turning, but in no way interferes with play.
Yeah, so the way it works is if the ball is not being played at the net, like most likely the second referee won't see that, because it means like the ball is out of the net, the players, they have landed, so the second referee is going to be watching on the other way. If the second referee, if it's on the landing, so the second referee is still watching the ball, the line, it's on the landing, it's part of the play, so the player is still landing. So yeah, it's a foul, okay? But if the player has landed and then like in other action, then most likely it's not going to be seen, because the second referee is going to be watching something else that's not on the net. If the play is on the net and it's part of the play, it's a foul.
Yeah, sure, because he's had to land there as part of his.
It's part of the action. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think that's pretty much all the questions coming in. I suppose just to wrap up, Vinny, in your own kind of observations, is there any kind of common mistakes that referees in Ireland, or perhaps, you know, ones that are just starting out, make that you could maybe highlight now that would help them?
To be honest with you, like there's no one mistake that happens, you know, like all the time. I think like the main thing is the referees, they forget about, and not only the ones starting, but like sometimes the match is so good that we might forget about what I have to be watching, and I watch the game, I watch the ball, I watch the you know, so then I forget about my net, my line that I have to be watching, the rotation sometimes like the match is so good that actually I'm second referee, instead of be watching the receiving team, I'm watching the server. So this is the kind of things that we have to be very careful. Like, okay, I have a job to get done and those are my tasks, and I'm gonna do what I am supposed to be doing, you know. And then like if I want to see the match, like I can record the match, but like right there I have to know what's my job.
Sure. Okay. Anything else, Vinny? Anything else you'd kind of on a leaving note? Any last nuggets of advice that you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, definitely. Like I always go for what the FIVB tells us to do, but then again, some things they cannot be applied to our reality in Ireland. So we have to use the common sense, and that's where it comes very handy, like this kind of conversations or webinars or workshops, to share experience among us referees. So then we can say like, okay, this is what FIVB tells us to do, but like we can't. So what can we do to still comply with the rules, but actually adapt to our volleyball in Ireland? So I think this is a very good start. And the second thing is, like, I always like to remind everyone that the referee has to remain in the background. Okay, the referee, if the referee is not seeing, that's a good referee. Okay, the bad referee is gonna be the show. He's gonna be leading the show, leading the match, and this is definitely against all the FIVB MCV requirements. Okay, of course, and I always like to say that. However, conscious negative actions and expressions, incorrect gestures to the opponent or to the referee's protests against the referee's decisions, this is strictly forbidden and must be sanctioned. Okay, so that we go back to the cards, and so we have to understand that the referee must be respected, and then if that happens, like the referee is going to be good. Cool.
Guys, anyone out there that's interested in refereeing, wants to become a referee, please get in touch, drop us an email, info@volleyballisland.com. We'll forward you on the details of courses, future webinars, Q&As, things like that we're hopefully going to establish. And hopefully we can start you on your pathway from beginner grade 3 up to international referee in waiting, like Vinnie Dos Santos that we have here. Vinnie, thank you very much for your time this evening. Very enlightening. Great to see a different side of volleyball that perhaps we need to be celebrating and sharing more. And look, we're delighted to have you on for the last hour and a half or so. So thanks again for your time. Good luck, and hopefully we'll see you back on the court very soon.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Gary. Like, it's a great experience. Like, yeah, and we're always available, and anything that you guys need, just let us know. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinnie. Rest of you guys, shameless plug time from me. We have Erica Fattini tomorrow night, coach education session talking about winning mindsets, which is really exciting. Next Tuesday, we have Newbridge Volleyball Club's Tom Landers talking about long-term player development and the importance of fundamental movement skills at a young age. And then next Thursday, we are doing a club engagement session. It won't be streamed live. It'll be a private Zoom event for clubs, and with a specific focus on helping clubs develop youth sections. So we're talking about the different supports on offer. Some of our top clubs will be sharing ideas, suggestions, things that they've done that works, and things that they've done that hasn't quite worked, so you guys don't have to make the same mistakes, I suppose. So really exciting about that. Tomorrow with Erica, Tuesday with Tom, and then Thursday night a few clubs involved talking about developing youth sections. Vinnie, thanks again. Everyone else tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks guys. Bye.